Hello and welcome to another episode of How to Write Songs. I'm your host, Sam Mizell. Today, we have one of my all-time heroes, Wayne Kirkpatrick, award-winning songwriter, producer, Broadway producer. Now that is amazing. With hits from Michael W. Smith, Garth Brooks, Babyface, Amy Grant. Did I just say Babyface? Yeah, that's correct. Peter Frampton, Eric Clapton, Martina McBride, and the list goes on and on. Please welcome Wayne Kirkpatrick. How are you?
Oh, I'm doing all right. Doing the thing.
Yeah, busy?
Yeah. Staying pretty busy. All things considered.
Yeah, COVID was a nice dish there to
A little pivot.
yeah.
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 Yeah. I was in New York when it all happened. So
Oh yeah.
yeah, we were
How's your show doing?
well, it's not doing anything now. No shows are doing, but we were 3 shows in when everything closed down. So we just up in New York. So we left everything how it was and came home.
Oh man, that's not good.
No.
When are you gonna resume, you think?
It's a little hard to tell because everything hinges on, if they, a vaccine and it really, theater or I guess live performances in general, are the kind of the first to shut down and the last to reopen, basically. So, I don't know. It could be another year before. It just depends because you have to have enough. You have to have a vaccine in place and a set time where it's okay to open for people to feel safe to come back in to the theaters. And then with theater, you have to have enough lead time to kind of rebuild up your advanced ticket sales and all that. So, it's kind of like relaunching your show. So you can't just open as soon as they say, "Oh, okay, theaters can open." You got to put
Right.
several months into remarketing and getting people in the seats. So,
And that's so out of my league, man. I am astonished at how big of an undertaking that seems. I mean, one of the questions I was going to ask you was, what other creative things do you do besides music? But I guess Broadway is definitely another outlet.
Yeah, that's definitely one. Yeah.
I mean, you were primarily a writer, artist, producer for a long time, and now, I mean, is Broadway like a departure, or is it something that feels kind of natural? Or
Yeah, I would call it an extension more than a departure. But yeah, and another chapter maybe, but it has become a primary focus for me since the first show that we did was received. It ran for just under 2 years, and like anything, you get a show on Broadway, and then other people start asking you to do other things, related to it. So, which led us to doing our second one, which was Mrs. Doubtfire, which is what we were.
Oh, cool! I didn't even realize that.
That's what we're opening up there at the beginning of the year.
Right on, man. That is out of my league. I'm gonna tell you right now. So first of all, thank you for being part of this series.
Yeah, you're welcome.
I wanted to talk to people who are my heroes, people that I've, emulated, or, their music has been a part of my life, or, and just go, what's important to them? What do they think? And so obviously you're on that list of people. So first I have to say this. My favorite song of yours is All Is Well. And the Voctive version of that, I'm sure you've seen that on YouTube.
I don't know if I have.
Oh my word. It is unbelievable.
Really?
Oh my gosh. It's like I cannot watch it without either tearing up or getting chills on chills. It is the coolest. Voctave. Have you heard of them?
Yeah, now that you mention it, that sounds familiar, um, but I don't think I've seen that.
Oh
I'll
my word.
have to check that out.
Okay, so let's get down to business. Okay, when did you write your first song, if you can remember that?
Yeah, actually, let's see. I think I was in the ninth grade.
Oh yeah.
So I was 14. Yeah, I had moved to a new town the summer before I went into high school,
Mhm.
and which is when I taught myself to play guitar. I didn't know anybody, and so I had taken piano lessons when I was in elementary school, so I had that, but I uh, didn't really know what I was doing,
Mhm.
And when I moved, and then I kind of discovered the guitar, and I we moved at the beginning of the summer. So while all of my friends that I had gone to school with in this town growing up were going to, spend the summer and get ready to go into high school, we moved. So it was a little, I mean, traumatic's probably too big of a word, but it was a bummer, that was for sure. And so I discovered guitar, taught myself to play. I just sat in my room. I got a book called Instant Fun with Guitar, and and I, yeah, and I learned all the chords, and my fingers hurt and all that, and as soon as I could change chords fast enough, I found myself starting to write songs, and I just found it to be very therapeutic. It was a way for me to kind of express what I was thinking and feeling, and so. And I think the first song I wrote was a love song because I had a girlfriend that I had left when we moved, and
Man,
so all of that 14-year-old angst, I just I just really enjoyed what it was unlocking in me, and then I just kind of never stopped.
that's awesome. That's awesome. Okay, so like how long before the moment you picked up your guitar to, hey, you're starting to kind of do this for a living and it's kind of working for you? Every songwriter has his or her journey. And
Yeah.
so like when was that moment for you where you're like, okay, I think I got something. I'm gonna really pursue this. Like it's not just a dream anymore. Like I'm gonna do this.
Yeah, it was kind of a slow process for me because, like I said, I was in high school when I started writing songs. So there was 4 years of high school, and then and I was writing all through that time and performing, and so I mean, indications of, well, maybe there's a benefit to being in a town where there aren't many people that write songs
I
because
totally
it's,
understand that.
oh, he writes songs, and then the disadvantage of that is uh, you got a lot of people saying, oh, you're good, oh, you should do this, and I was never a extremely self-confident kind of person, so I I never really bought the hype, so to
Right.
speak, you know. And I knew in my mind I would have dreams of I would love to be in music. I just didn't know that you could do that, like be a songwriter as a career, you know. And so when I went to college, which I went to college, I grew up in Baton Rouge, Louisiana. So I went to school. I went to LSU, Louisiana State,
Oh, cool.
and is where I started. And I majored in landscape architecture. And that was my, like, well, I'm gonna take this and get a as something to fall back on,
Right, right, right,
And,
right. Yeah.
and in my about my third year in taking third year design courses and all this, and I was restless. I was like, I don't want to be a landscape architect. that was the path that I was on, and I was like, I really want to be in music. And so I ended up sitting out a semester at the advice of actually my student advisor, because I was not sure what I wanted to do. And someone told me about, a friend of mine told me about Belmont, which was Belmont College then. It wasn't university even then. And he just said, there's this school, Belmont, and they have, music business program and a recording studio. And I was like, what? that I, what is this heaven you speak of? And,
Yeah, no
um,
kidding.
and so I drove up to Nashville with a friend of mine and looked at the school, and I was hooked, So I was like, that's where I feel like I should be, because it's just you're just surrounded by musicians and writers and the industry and all that. So that's what I did. At my third year in at LSU, I left and moved up to Nashville, and I did not know one person
Mm.
when I came here. I didn't even know who my roommates were going to be in the dorm. So, which was quite a bold move for someone like me. I was pretty much a kind of a wallflower, and not big on self promotion. And
I feel that.
so, but so I went to Belmont for a couple of years, and the first year I was at Belmont, I really just kind of took it all in and just tried to learn. And of course, all that time continuing to write. And when I first came, I thought I wanted to be a singer songwriter,
Mm.
be an artist. And I gradually started playing, doing a showcase here or there, or doing things like that. And there were a couple of guys that I met at school that were in the music business program, and they were interested in the publishing side of things, and they worked at publishing companies. And I started doing stuff with them, a guy named Chris Smith and another guy named Mason Cooper. And they were young entrepreneurs. They were wanting to be in the publishing, and so we kind of formed a little partnership. They were, at the time, one of them, Chris, was a tape copy boy at a publishing company, and another one was some sort of entry level assistant or something. But they had access to recording equipment, and I would go after hours to these places and record my songs and with them. And eventually those relationships led to me getting my first publishing deal.
Oh yeah, where was that?
That was a place called Merit Music, which was a a new publishing company that, a couple of real estate moguls had come to town and were forming a publishing company. And so I got set up there, and then at the same time I started developing a relationship with Blanton Harrell
Yeah.
Management, who managed Amy Grant and Michael W. Smith and all that. So I was also forming a relationship with them, and uh, through them, and a long way around to answering your question, but I started getting paired with people to write with. And there was a guy named Billy Sprague,
Uh-huh.
who was an artist, and he was doing his first album. And I wrote with him, and that became my first album. Was a song
Very
on it. It was
cool.
pretty rare. And at that point, what I can remember, as far as like thinking, well, maybe I can do this for a living. Of course, when I signed with the publishing company and they paid me an advance, I think it was like $250 a week or something like
Wow.
that. And I just thought, okay, this is awesome. Somebody's paying me to write songs. And so that was kind of the beginning of maybe I can eke out a living with this. I just remember the first time I remember going and signing up. I think it was like at State Farm Insurance, signing up like car insurance or something. And when you fill out the form, there was a space that said occupation.
Right.
And that was the first time I wrote songwriter. I was like,
Wow.
I guess I can write this. I have a job as a songwriter. Publishing company is paying me. So that was kind of a monumental moment for me. And then after the Billy Sprague cut, my next two cuts that I got were on the Amy Grant Unguarded album, and
Very
then I felt like I had hit pay dirt, at that point as a
wow.
songwriter,
Yeah.
because at that time having songs on an Amy Grant record was kind of was a pinnacle, for
Yeah.
a slot for any songwriter in town. So that was a big deal for me.
Awesome. What was your first, like, undoubted, this is a hit? And tell me that process of, okay, when you wrote this, when you wrote that song, like, did you know it was a hit, or did you doubt it all the way? And then when you saw it blow up, give me all that process. Give me those details on that.
Um, I guess my what I would consider my first hit um, would be, I guess, Every Heartbeat, when Amy Grant did Every Heartbeat, which I had written with her and Charlie Peacock,
Oh, yeah.
and and but actually it was an idea that Charlie had. He had a piece of music. By the time that song came around, um, I had developed a writing relationship with Amy,
Hmm.
and so we had worked on a few things before, and it's like I had, after the Unguarded record, I ended up having at least one song on each Amy record that came out. I think that's right. I'm trying to remember the chronology of the albums that she had. But so anyway, Charlie had this piece of music, and I think he had the title. I think he was singing on his demo Every Heartbeat or something, So I got with Amy, and we worked on the lyrics for it. And then they went and recorded the record, and I didn't know that I walked away going, oh, this is a hit. I mean, I thought it was catchy, and I
Hmm.
I felt good about it, but trying to identify what is a hit and what is,
Right.
it's,
Right.
it's always hard. It's like, so the goal is always to, well, just try to make it a good song.
Right.
You can write something and go, oh, okay, I feel like I did my best here. I feel like, but I think I always feel like, well, I've done all I can do. I don't never walk away and go, this is the best thing that's ever been written in the world.
Right. Right.
It's just like, okay, I have drained the well here, and then you kind of hope for the best. And some you walk away and feel better about than others, and but I have walked away from something and gone, or put the pen down and gone, I think this could be something. I think I can get this cut somewhere, and it's still laying around somewhere, not cut. And then something else that you don't feel that great about, someone cuts and you go, really, that one? Um, so there's no accounting for taste.
Sure.
Art knows no justice.
Yes. Oh
Yeah.
man, I'm gonna write that down. I want to write that down. Okay, so where were you when you first heard it on the radio?
I don't remember. I don't know. Actually, it's horrible that I can't remember.
Oh, all right.
I think I was just driving down the interstate and it came on the radio. Nothing, no bolt of light or anything like that.
Right, right.
But I think I had also. It's hard to, because I had heard it. It wasn't the first single off the album, So I heard it when the album came out, or heard it before the album came out. So more what I remember about that particular song is it was the follow-up song to Baby Baby, which
Oh
was,
wow.
and he's huge, it was huge. So it was definitely enjoying the wake of Baby Baby, and but it climbed the charts, and I just remember at that time, because everybody always talking about, oh, where is it on the charts and all that. So, and it got all the way up to number 2, and then it just hung there for
Oh,
a while because there was this Brian Adams song, "Everything I do it for you,"
oh
and
man.
that just hovered at number one for just weeks and weeks. So nothing else could break through. So Amy hit that ceiling at number two with because of the Brian Adams thing. So
Oh man. Is there a song that you have written in your career that means the most to you, released or unreleased? Of all the songs I've written, this is the one that I love, regardless of whether it becomes a hit or
yeah, I don't. That's really hard. That's kind of like asking, of all the children you have, who's your favorite?
yes.
And it's
Oh wait,
like,
you have favorite children. Come on.
yeah, well, it just depends on what day you ask me, you
Right.
know. And so I don't know. At any given time, there's a handful or an armful of songs that I kind of default to that I like for different reasons on any number. And then on any given day, if I'm feeling like not all that great about myself, then I hate all of
Right.
them. I think, wow, none of these are any good. Um,
Yes.
so, so yeah, I don't think I could single out one specific one for that covers all things for all times.
Like I know a lot of times writers write stuff and not every song can be at the depth of your soul.
Right.
Like to me, when I hear all is well, like that had to be like a really spiritual moment.
I mean, I have a lot of moment, especially stuff that when I'm writing by myself,
Oh yeah.
that where I go to places that are just for me,
Oh yeah.
you know, and that's funny. You mentioned that song, and I'm thinking about it because there again, that was Michael. I wrote a lot with Michael W. Smith back then, and
Talented.
huh,
He's a talented dude.
yeah, and he would send me uh, music ideas. So I did a lot of lyric writing for him, primarily lyric writing for him, and I write both. I write music and lyrics, but I will kind of be a facilitator for where someone doesn't do something, and in his case, he wrote music. He did not write lyrics, but that particular song he called me. I was out in California and I was out there. We were either on vacation or my brother was getting married, or there was some reason I was out there with my family. And he called me. This was before internet too. So, and he was doing this Christmas album and he had this song and he wanted me to work on it, wanted to know and he needed it uh, soon, like yesterday.
Yeah,
One of
absolutely.
those kind of things. And I was out in California and I was like, yeah, okay, I can work on that. Well, we were going to Disneyland, if I remember this right. So he sent me a cassette. I think it was a cassette at the time. Like FedExed it to me. Again, this was before internet, so you couldn't just go, "Hey, here it is."
Right.
So he FedExed it to me, and I played it and got the melody and everything in my head enough to remember it. And then we went to Disneyland. I was with my family, and I just remember walking around the whole time, kind of working on that song in my head while we were at Disneyland,
That's that's
or a bulk of it. So, and just trying to remember, trying to work it all out, which was a great exercise in blocking everything out, and yet still trying to be present for your family, you know.
you
But
still have that tape?
but huh?
You still have that tape?
Uh oh, I don't know. Somewhere.
That would
I'm
be
sure I don't throw anything away, so I'm sure it's somewhere. Yeah. But anyway, as far as songs that me, there are a lot of things that I write that are that are just for me. I mean, or initially, and probably more so than not, really, because that's kind of the way I like I like to write. I mean, and obviously through the year, you write for specific projects or specific artists, and that's a different kind of thing. But you still try to put, or I still try to put a piece of me in all of it because I don't really know how to not do that.
Right.
So, but yeah, I've got tons of songs that no one has ever recorded and probably never will, you know. But they are part of that therapeutic process that I discovered when I was writing, when I first started writing in high school. You know, it's a way to get something out, whether it's a sad emotion or something over a relationship or get my anger out, you know, through a song or frustration or whatever it is. Um, yeah, I have a lot of those.
Man, that's awesome. Okay, so the $25,000 question: lyric first, melody first, or does it just all happen at the same time?
Um, well, the broad answer to that is I've never been very successful at putting at writing lyrics and then putting music to them.
Mm-hmm.
I tend to lyrics tend to be for me inspired by the music.
Hmm.
So I would say generally speaking, music first. Sometimes hand in hand with an idea or a title. You know, I keep a title book, and so I just jot down an ideas for a song. You know, and so if I'm writing a piece of music and nothing spills out of that naturally, then I will go to my title book and see if there's anything in there that would fit with the music idea that I've come up with, and then and if nothing comes from that, then I just kind of start looking for what it needs to say. But I've never sat down and written a lyric, or rarely, I will say, written a lyric and then go, okay, now put music to it. And when someone has given me a lyric to put music to, I've not been very successful
Hmm.
with doing that. But you know, maybe one or two times in my whole writing career have I done something like that. So
Yeah, I bless the iPhone for having that little note app.
yeah,
You know,
the memo.
memo. Oh man,
Yeah, yeah.
dude. Yeah, and it's funny because I have so many of those, and I always forget to go back and check them. But you know, as far as writing titles down, that's huge.
Yeah, I I I have done that for and I actually and I still do this. I record. I use the memo thing on when I'm in a crunch, but typically I record all my ideas on a cassette player.
There you go.
Still,
Old school.
yeah, old school. That's just what I did when I first started, and I just have a box of tapes, all my work tapes, and I just keep them there, and they you know, the format never changes.
All right. So your heroes, your influences.
Well, I kind of cut my teeth on the the 70s, the singer songwriters of the 70s. So I was really, I would say my early influences would be everything from, uh, you know, James Taylor and the Eagles and Dan Fogelberg, Jackson Brown, you know, all that, all that early stuff. Linda Ronstadt, Kenny Loggins,
Oh yeah, yeah,
you
yeah.
know.
Now, have you met a lot of these heroes?
Um, I I met James Taylor once briefly. I actually it was at some benefit in town that I think it was something that Amy was involved with. I think it was something for the cancer, like the mini Pearl or Sarah Cannon
Oh yeah.
cancer, something other. And so they performed, and then at one point at the end, James, everybody came back on stage that had been, and I had done something I think with Amy that night, and at the end of the evening, everybody came on stage, and then James Taylor performed "Shower the People," and we all sang with it. So I like to say that I sang with James Taylor. I really didn't. I mean, it was like whatever 30 people up there, but but I did get to meet him briefly, and then I met Kenny Loggins one time at something that I was doing, and got to just got to tell him that his music had influenced me, or so. Let's see, I got to sing on a background session once with Timothy B. Schmidt.
Cool.
From the Eagles, which that was quite a moment for me, and quite intimidating, but it's like just me and him doing background vocals on something. I'm like, oh, I'm singing with an eagle. But yeah, and every once in a while, I mean, I've come across some people from my early days of influence, of working with. I worked briefly with a couple of things with Peter Frampton, who came out here to my studio and
that was crazy.
Recorded, and he was playing guitar and singing, and I was like, well, that sounds familiar. All those sounds, yeah. But the singer songwriter era of the '70s, that's my sweet spot, and that's where I cut my teeth, where I first was learning to play guitar and learning to write, and I would sit in my room. Actually, the first artist that I really got into around the time when I was learning to play guitar was John Denver.
Oh yeah.
And I used to of course he was huge in that mid '70s era. But I would sit in my room with an album, and you could buy the album, then you could go to a sheet music store and buy the book of the album, of whatever it was, the music book, and it had the guitar boxes on it, that show the dots and where you put your fingers and all. And I used to sit with his albums and then just try to play along with them. And I was learning to play guitar, that way. And then once I tend to, if I get into something, I'm just kind of all in. So I think I had every John Denver record he ever made,
Yep.
And so I learned all of those. And then at one point, I think my dad brought home an album, like a James Taylor album, James Taylor Gorilla. And that was like, oh, this is a little more complex. And then I started trying to learn that stuff, and just, so all of that. And then I really got into Dan Fogelberg. But just learning that stuff was also learning that those were my teachers. As far as songwriting, I would just study. I would sit and listen to those, and I would read the lyrics and just, analyze what was going on in a way, because I was trying to emulate them and trying to write and trying to construct a lyric the way that they were constructing lyrics, and that's how I learned. I didn't have anybody really to teach me like that kind of stuff, so I had to learn it on my own.
Yeah, my wife's a huge John Denver fan. I didn't. I mean, I love. I mean, I love hits. You know what I mean? I love really, if it's popular, or catchy or singable or whatever. I pretty much dig it. I'm a pop music head. Era when a John Denver song comes on, if I'm in Kroger and it comes on, I'm probably singing, down the baking aisle or whatever. But my wife and my in-laws, they I think their first dance was you gonna
Annie's song, yeah.
And so my wife, I mean, she grew up, that's one of her big influences, John Denver.
Oh, interesting.
I love that. And all right, well, I won't keep you too much longer, just a couple more things here.
All right.
If you were on a desert island, had 3 records that you were going to listen to, would it be James Taylor in there, Fogelberg in there?
Yeah, I would say, yeah, definitely, probably Fogelberg, Innocent Age. That would be be one that I would have to put Fleetwood Mac Rumors
Oh yeah.
there probably. Um, and uh, I might have to sneak a few on more than just the three.
Yes. Yes.
But probably
Get new customs with.
yeah, the best of the Eagles
Oh
probably,
yeah. Yeah.
you know, and 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 then slip James Taylor's greatest hits in there too.
Yeah. I
Uh,
was, when somebody asked me, what are your three favorite movies? I'm like, it's hard to pick because I don't want to just pick the Star Wars trilogies.
right?
You know what I mean? Even though they're probably my favorites, or Indiana Jones or whatever.
Yeah,
No, it's a hard question to answer.
it is. I
Uh,
mean, but those are things. I mean, if when you boil it down, it's like those are records I still pull out and listen to. You
mhm.
know, in terms of the ones I was mentioning. So um, there's also Jackson Brown Running on Empty as
Oh
a
yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah.
big for me too. But yeah, it is hard. It's hard to narrow it down.
Is there a song that you've heard that you go, man, I wish I would have written that? Just even for a craft's sake. I mean, I always hear like, everything I do it for you, and go, man, I wish I'd have wrote that because
Yeah.
that would have been a lot of money. You know what I mean? But just even for craft's sake, you're like, okay, that song that's a great, that somebody knew what they were doing when they wrote that.
Oh, a lot. Yeah. um, yeah. I mean, even something like Somewhere Over the Rainbow.
Oh man, yeah.
I mean, to me, that song works on so many levels, lyrically, melodically, you know, chordally. Um, that's a masterpiece to me. Yesterday by the Beatles, Paul McCartney. Um, yeah, I wish I'd written that.
Yeah, songs like "Somewhere Over the Rainbow," man, I that's like in a whole nother league of,
Oh yeah,
you have to be a master at a lot of things to write a song.
yeah, and I just love that song, and have always loved that song, and that song's like, man, I wish I could write like that.
Mm.
Yeah.
I always feel that way when I hear the Christmas song, the chestnuts roasting on an
Oh
open,
yeah.
like the amount of chord knowledge
That
that
yeah,
you
that's
have.
another level.
Yeah,
That is someone who knows their stuff.
yeah, yeah, definitely. I'm humbled. I mean, I listen to jazz greats, or I listen to like a Chick Corea or something
Uh-huh.
like that, and I'm always enamored and amazed by how savvy and amazing and talented they are. But I love it when they'll take a song like, the Christmas song, or you'll hear them play something that seems so simple. Like
Right.
the Christmas song seems so simple. It's not, but it seems that way. And
Until you sit down and try to play it.
play it, and then you're like, okay,
Oh wow, this doesn't go where my hands normally go.
right, right.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
Right.
yeah, yeah, for real. That's amazing. All right. Last thought. Is there any advice to the writers out there in the writer sphere that you'd go, this is something I learned, something somebody taught me, something somebody probably needs to hear in their journey that helped me? Anything like that for you?
I would say if there's anything that I just have learned or felt along the way from just the creative process is I, I find it important to be a finisher.
Hmm.
It's so easy to start things and not follow through with them, and this would apply to anything, but songwriting as well. Seeing things through to completion, I think, is important for our sense of accomplishment. Um, so finish more things than not. You know, because the middle is hard.
Hmm.
the middle of anything is hard, and you always go, okay, I'm at the middle and this is hard. Here's this shiny new thing, this new idea that's exciting me now. I'll do that. And if you get in the habit of abandoning things half finished, you're doing yourself a disservice by not giving yourself a sense of accomplishment, even if nothing ever happens with the piece, to just that sense of going, okay, I got through the hard part and I finished this, and now I'm going to do that again. And you get in the habit of doing that. It's rewarding on its own level. And that's what I tend to tell people is be a finisher.
That is I've never heard anybody put it that way. That is awesome advice. I'm actually going to take that.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm not saying I'm always successful at it either, but that's a try. It's like just to try to get things done. And it's satisfying.
Yeah. Man, I appreciate you so much. Thank you for being gracious, giving me some time.
Oh, you're welcome.
And I'll be working on this series and getting it all buttoned up. We got a lot of really cool people, a lot of really great perspectives,
Yeah, great.
Anyway, but I appreciate you so much. Thank you for being.
Yeah, you're welcome.
And I'll send you a link when it's all buttoned up, and you can check it out.
Great. That sounds great.
All right. Thanks, Wayne. Take it easy.
Good talking to you.
All right. You too.
All right.